It's a common adage to learn from your mistakes. But have you considered making mistakes to learn? In the same way that a broken clock is right twice a day, producing the correct answer to a question can be done without truly understanding the problem. A key component of understanding is being able to identify errors and determine how to correct them. In gaining this understanding, errors themselves can be useful learning tools. For an example in CS, consider your experience with your first programming language. Likely when you began to learn, you made many errors initially that caused either the compiler or runtime to complain. In order to fix the error, you likely had to explore online on websites like Stack Overflow to understand the error and to correct it. To fix these errors, you likely needed to gain a deeper understanding of the language, the programming environment, or the computers themselves. Consider that the relationship that you've had with a programming language has changed over the years. My guess is that compiler warnings now feel like small reminders of correct behavior rather than some sort of confusing mess. In the paper Learning from Errors, Students and Instructors, Practices, Attitudes, and Beliefs, the authors surveyed around 1,000 undergraduates and over 100 professors to gain perspectives on their relationships using errors as an educational tool. They found that while the vast majority of students found that they both learned well and studied well using mistakes that they had made, they felt very hesitant to make errors publicly and did not naturally consider making them as part of their studying process. One way is that the authors discuss for improving and understanding using errors is by pretesting, the objective of which is to force students to make mistakes by testing either their partial or non-existent knowledge on a topic. This forces them to think about the problems and generate likely incorrect responses, and in doing so, they prime themselves for solving the problem in a way that they are aware of their own ignorance. And what this allows them to do is to fail without fear. And then they can benefit from the errors after being educated properly on the subject material. An example of how many of us learn via error is cooking. For example, consider when attempting a recipe the first time, you can make lots of different errors, such as forgetting an ingredient, performing the wrong instruction out of order, or extending a procedure like burning food. These are shallow errors and ones that can be corrected by reviewing the recipe. After learning the basics of the dish, however, these can be improved by practicing each one of the subjective skills and learning sort of their intrinsic nature and how to improve the flavor of the food through this. While subjective, taste is the test that determines the errors that you've made, and it supplies natural, actionable feedback as to how we can correct our actions in the future. For example, adding less salt. As TAs, we can consider asking questions to students prior to explaining the material in detail. To eliminate the pressure, we can ask them to write down their responses anonymously and grade them themselves to help them better understand the errors. As an activity involving pretesting, consider the following challenge. Take anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes to draw a map of EBU 3B Floor 1 from memory. Try to label the washrooms, elevators, conference rooms, staircases, room numbers, and if you can, emergency exits. When you're done, use the link to mark each of your errors and then wait 10 minutes and try to draw from memory a second time. Note your improvements.